And welcome to the Barry Foster Show on YouTube, originating from the Ridge Floor Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. I'd like to remind you, if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for the program, you can drop us a line at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com, or just put them in the comments below. We try to put up a new program here daily, Monday through Friday, and you can help us out a lot. You subscribe to our YouTube page, like it, share it, and please like and subscribe and share to our pages at the Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram. That would be very helpful. We are in the Christmas season. I can tell you, if you're decorating your house, it's one-stop shop. Stop by Ridge Floors, 111 Memorial Boulevard in Sebring, right there by the Sebring Parkway. Pick yourself up a beautiful arrangement. If you need some help decorating, call them at 863-382-4477. They can get designers out there. They have some decor they can help put up, take it down after the holiday season is over. I'm telling you, if you want to decorate your house, you need look no further than Ridge Florist. More than 60 years, almost now 7 decades, of covering Highlands County with beautiful flowers and floral arrangements. 111 Memorial Boulevard, right down there by the Sebring Parkway in Sebring. Or give them a call, 863-382-4477. That's Ridge Florist, and they provide us with the Ridge Floor Studios. John Larsen in the studios with us today. John,
good morning.
Good. Christmas season is coming up, and I got to remind folks, one of the nice things about doing this on the internet now is that these shows are available all the way back until like May of this year. And one I did last week with one of your good friends, we've had at the tea party, a guy by the name of Don Buckner, who runs madeinusa.com. And if you want to find some made in USA products for holiday gift giving, that's the place to go. They have everything that they have pet supplies, they have clothing, they even have snow shovels, John. If you need a snow shovel, you can pick one up made in the United States, okay?
Well, you talked about that now while we're discussing here. Oh, no, I left my phone in the car.
Oh, no, did you leave your phone in the car? Yeah. But I will tell you that he says, they're a big seller this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
I had a friend of mine who moved down from the great industrialized north, and as he was unpacking his U-Haul trailer, he found that he had brought his snow shovel with him. And I said, well, George, what'd you do with it? He says, well, we tied a big red bow on it and put it up next to the door as a Christmas decoration. So there's that.
I'll tell you, my daughter sent me pictures last night of the snow they've had up there in the last few days. They've had 14 inches of snow.
Wow.
And she took a picture of the snow on her deck, and it's like, and that was after she had shoveled it the day before, and it was already back up like that high.
I think snow is beautiful when you're looking at it on Facebook from Florida. It's just very enticing.
Yes.
Very enticing.
And like I told you the other day, I mean, she took pictures of her dashboard going to work last week. One day it was 2 degrees. The next day it was 4 degrees.
Doubled.
Okay. That's right. So, but I mean, you compare that to where we are here. Okay. No snow on the ground. Thank you. It's still green in some areas and so on. So you don't have to worry about that. And yeah, we get down maybe into the 40s, but we don't get down into the single digits very often.
No, and I will tell you that there was no snow at the first Christmas.
No.
Okay, but when Christ was born, the shepherds didn't have to slog through the snow to get there.
No.
They get to the manger. So
no, they didn't, and so on. So yeah, so that was kind of interesting stuff. But unfortunately, that's where I'm going to be going. So. Might as well, I say, suck it up and get used to it. Here it comes. Yes.
It's nice when my mother used to live up in Ohio. We would go up there, and I used to hate the fall because I knew what was coming. But I went up there, and the leaves were changing. It was beautiful, a little bit crisp. I had a really good time because I knew I was coming back here.
Right.
So you can go up there and enjoy the snow for a couple of weeks? Is it?
Yeah. Well, it'll be the better part of a couple of weeks by the time I get back. Yes.
So are you going to go to snowmobile races instead of dirt track races?
No. That's okay. I'll probably, with that amount of snow and cold in the air and on the ground, I will probably spend the bulk of my time inside. Thank you very much.
Are you going to roast some chestnuts by the open fire?
Probably not do that either. But unfortunately, in years past, when I drove up there every year in the wintertime, I always had my illustrious snow brush with me.
Oh,
So
yes.
this year, I don't think I'm going to take that on a plane, okay? But
No.
I'll end up probably having to get one when I get up there because I'm going to get a car for a week or so.
Well, you know, I went to the Some Things Are $1.25 store one
Mm-hmm.
time, and they had snow brushes hanging on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked up to the girl with one of my hands and said, "What's this?" And she said, "Oh, I know. She says, "They sent them to us by accident."
Mm-hmm.
So I got one, and I carried it around with me. And if you go to the beach, these are great for cleaning the sand out of your car.
Mm-hmm.
They work just great.
Mm-hmm.
And the scrapey part is if some bird leaves a calling card on your windshield, you can scrape it off with this scraper. And I mean, the snow brushes aren't just for snow anymore. You know, I found that we have basically what old people remember as a station wagon, and so using the brush to brush out the back really worked really well. So carrying a snow brush, and I've seen them at thrift shops and garage sales. People who brought them by accident.
Oh yeah,
Didn't think they'd need them.
Yep.
I scarfed them up, and so we always carry a snow brush.
Well, I've kept mine. I kept mine handy all these years and whatnot, and I've used it up until this year. I won't be able to use it. Well, I didn't use it last year either because I didn't get a chance to go. I had some other issue come up and so on. But no, that's okay. They can have it. And like I said, my daughter already told me after the first week. She said, "Dad, I'm already tired of it." I said, "Well, look at it this way. You've only got another 4 or 5 months to go."
Well, okay, so you can build a snowman up there. You can have some fun up there.
Yeah,
you can snowball fight with your daughter.
You can do a lot of things, but I think I'd rather spend time with friends and family and inside where it's a little warm and all that good stuff. Yes, well, absolutely, indeed.
Before we went on the air, you told me some really good news. I can't tell you how good news this is. You found out something about Social Security that didn't make me the happiest guy in the world.
I heard somebody mention last week. It was on some podcast, and they mentioned this, and I said, "I've never heard of that before." And I said, "I can't believe that." So I looked it up, and sure enough, back in 1960, almost 66 years ago, okay. The Supreme Court had a case, was Fleming versus Nestor in 1960, stating that Social Security benefits are not guaranteed and are subject to change based on congressional decisions. The ruling clarified that individuals do not have legally binding right to receive benefits, as the system is not akin to a contract.
Well, now my question is this, okay? Since I was a clerk at the 5 and dime store when I was 15 years old, they have been taking money out of my paycheck for this.
Yes.
So the argument was, we're saving this for your future. Well, I was actually paying for other people, and now younger people are paying for me, okay? But I was guaranteed that they took this money out for me. So how does that not be a contract exactly?
Sorry. Okay. The Supreme Court said it is not a contract. The government does not have a legal binding right to give you back money. Okay. They don't. The Supreme Court ruled that you do not have a legally binding right to receive benefits, as the system is not akin to a contract. That was the ruling back in 1960, and has not been overturned.
It's akin to a Ponzi scheme.
Has not been overturned, so it is still in effect. So if, let's say for whatever, now politicians, I don't think would ever do this because it would be political suicide.
They don't have the guts. No.
If they came around someday and said, "We need to save $1 trillion a year. We're going to do it by eliminating Social Security," the Supreme Court has ruled they'd have a right to do that. Okay.
Wow.
They'd have a right to do that. So and I was like everybody else. All these years, I said, "That's my money. I have a right to that money." Supreme Court said, "No, you don't."
And if you want to go back and see, as I understand it, when they first instituted this, the city of Corpus Christi, Texas, said, "We're not going to do that. We're going to," and it was basically it was a savings account. They had a personal savings account for you.
Yes.
And they did what Social Security did, except they kept it in a local bank, or they kept it in their little bank, and it accrued interest, and they didn't rate it like Congress did.
Nope.
And the people who originally started that were almost millionaires.
Yes.
By the time they got done.
Yes. And that program is still in effect today. I don't know how many of the original signers of that are around.
Very few.
Right. But in fact, that program was still a viable program and so on. So, yeah, and they were codified in it. They were grandfathered into it. And so the court couldn't take it away from them.
Mm-hmm.
But this information was, you shake your head and you say, "Oh no, I
that's
can't
scary."
It is very scary.
And we talked yesterday about people doing more research and finding out about this.
Yes,
I would ask you to please begin to do some research into this. And I have tried over the course of the years to put money back.
Mm-hmm.
The way we put money back is I bought a house, and the house accrued in value. And when I sold it, I sold the house for more than what I paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even though they socked me with a capital gains tax on it, but I still made money on the house. So I had money going into my golden years, and have tried to put money back from then. And I'm still working here. We're still doing an internet talk show.
Mm-hmm.
One of these days, I'm going to get some advertisers here. I thank the Lord for Ridge Florist, but we're going to do that and make some money doing this, because I don't know. I grew up at a time when you can't not work.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with what they called the Christian work ethic. The Apostle Paul said, "Those who do not work, neither should they eat." And so I always thought that I never pictured myself as being retired, okay, and not doing something where I wasn't productive.
Yep.
And so, I stepped away from the radio and decided that the internet could be more lucrative, which I think it ultimately it can. It may take a little while for me to learn these skills, but I'm learning these skills as we go along. I see these kids that are making $1 million with AI. I should be able to do that.
Well, there's a lot of these podcasters that had upwards of 100,000, 200,000 viewers, and they have full-time sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, it can become that situation where it can be an income stream and so on. You're right. I think it just takes time to build up an audience and then build up outreaching to some potential, advertisers, and then start getting advertising funds.
And that's why we ask you to like, subscribe, and share.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of our folks who used to hear us on radio who don't hear us on the radio anymore. I've had many people come up to me and say, "Well, how do you like retirement?" And I have to tell them I'm not retired. And I said, you're on the internet now? I had a lady, we went to a Christmas party over the weekend, and I said, "Do you ever go on YouTube?" She said, "I'm on YouTube all the time." I said, "Okay, well," here, I gave her one of my cards, The Barry Foster Show,
right,
and you'll find it. And so it's climbing. I saw this article saying, "Building trust one podcast at a time." I don't call it a podcast. I just call it my show, because that's what it was before. So we try to do that one podcast at a time. And now I have to go and research Social Security to make sure that I at least get my money back out of it.
Well, hurry up before it's gone.
I'm supposed to. Well, to be honest, I never thought I'd see it. I thought Social Security was going to collapse before I got old enough to. And so the second that I was able to get it, I went down Social Security. He said, "Well, you won't be able to. You won't get as much." I said, "That's okay, because I'd rather get a little bit than get zero." So, but I'm still getting my Social Security check this month, so I'm happy.
Right. Well, I waited as long as I felt I could. I was 67 and a half before I retired. And I'm glad, in retrospect, I'm glad I waited, because yes, that extra 2 years plus, I was able to accumulate a lot more in Social Security, and consequently that meant more coming back to me for.
Well, I was able to work while I was collecting Social Security.
Well, that's where I missed out. I missed out big time and did not realize it. I was naive, because I thought right along that while I was working, I could not collect Social Security. when I went down to finally apply for Social Security at 67 plus, the guy did all of his calculations in the Social Security office, and he says, Mr. Larsen, he says, you missed out on some money. I said, really? He said, yeah, you should have been able to collect Social Security as soon as you turned, I think it was like 65 and 7 months or something like that is when I was at fully vested.
Under your rules.
So he did a quick calculation. He said, yeah, you missed out on $37,000.
Oh,
yes.
man.
And that made me sick.
Yeah.
Okay, but I was naive. I never heard any advertisement that said, and I just made the assumption that once you turn 65, all right, if you're working, you could not collect Social Security and work at the same time.
Well, they made me wait. I was making too much money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was making too much money, and I had to wait for 6 months before I could collect it, and then that went on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, fine.
Right.
But it was my money, and then when I stepped away from the radio, then I made more. But that's okay.
Yep.
It's working out, and so, but I still doing this, and I'm making a little bit now. Not nearly what I need to be making, but I'm making a little bit now, and it's going. I think it's going to come up as we come up. But we are in a smaller market. We talk about some national stuff, but we still talk a lot of stuff that's happening in Highlands County. And we want to make sure that people know what some of the issues are. I just did a story with did a show with Tom Macklin about the Tourist Development Commission and these new kiosks that have gone in. They've just gone live. I was there the other day and saw them, and I'm still pretty unhappy with that. But I'm going to start going to the county commission meetings. I've been going to the Avon Park City Council meetings. I'm going to start covering some of that stuff to bring some of the stories that maybe are not getting out there. I'm hoping that something is going to happen soon with Harder Hall. I'd sure like to get Mr. Blackman to talk to us about Harder Hall.
Because they, as far as I know from the last stories I read, had to do with the installation of numerous windows. And I think the roof is all complete there now because they were working on that about a month or two ago.
Yes.
So they've continued to put resources and money into the program of rebuilding it. And so I'm hoping that at some point, if they continue along that road, that it will be open for public viewing so that you could at least go in and tour the place and see what it looked like and all that.
As we know, the story is going to be what happens with the golf course across the street. And they have put in a request for proposal to take it over. The city council has rather offhandedly assured them that no one could put in as good a deal as they are offering. So we're going to see how that goes. There's another hotel, and I just talked with him in the recent past, a few weeks ago, Manya Rahal, who is restoring the Kenilworth Lodge, and he's won one of his lawsuits. Another of his lawsuits is continuing to cook along, but I told him at some point, now it'll probably be after the first of the year, I'd like to have him back on and talk about the Kenilworth Lodge and the things that he's been doing with that.
Yeah, because I know last year, he said he wasn't going to be ready. Of course, it was way too soon, but I think, was hoping, and we were kind of hoping that some portion of it would be open for the race this year, the 12-hour race this year, which is March. So another 3 months from now, roughly, is when the race takes place. So whether or not he's going to have any part of it inhabitable for the public, that remains to be seen.
There was so much damage done by vandals in there when it was shut down. It's pretty tough, and for him to restore it even to its glory, it's going to be. We're wishing him the best of luck. And there's a lady here in Avon Park who wants to restore her building in a historic manner. He offered to come in and sit down and talk with her about that. And while we're talking about hotels, my dear friend, Reinhard Obner, who has been the general manager of the hotel at the Sebring Raceway. It's now called 7 because it's there on turn 7, but it started as the Chateau Elan. He will be retiring here in the next few weeks.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I'm trying to get both him and Wayne Estes, who's the president and general manager of the Sebring International Raceway, who will also be retiring here in the next few weeks, to come back and give us a retrospective on on what they've seen for Wayne over the past 10 years, for Reinhardt over the past 25 years, almost 25 years,
Yeah.
to talk about that. So we're going to try to get both of those guys on, hopefully before the end of the year.
Right. Yep. Well, that would be interesting, especially on Reinhold's part, because he's seen a lot of changes out there.
Oh my!
And saw the ownership of the hotel, that whole thing, and whatnot. Especially since he spent all of his time at the hotel and running the hotel and seeing the expansion that was put on it, and so on. So that would be kind of interesting to hear what he's seen.
It's been under 4 different flags, I think, of different hoteliers that have run the place, and I had so hoped that this year for New Year's Eve there was going to be a race, because this year New Year's Eve will mark the 75th anniversary of the very first race at Sebring, the 6-hour Sam Collier Memorial. And I worked as hard as I could work to try to get a race out there. And sadly, there will not be a race. The last race out there will be the champ car races, the chump car races, which are going to be the last weekend in December, which is 27, 28, 29, I think. That's so. But New Year's Eve comes on a Wednesday, and we worked and tried to get a race. Couldn't make that happen. Tried to get a celebration at the track. Couldn't make that happen. So now the celebration has been moved to the downtown area. And I'm going to try to get Ford Haycock III, who is the president and dictator for life of the Automobile Racing Club of Florida, which has gone from a sanctioning body to a historical preservation body. And they're going to be having a big party on the circle in downtown Sebring with race cars and music and people and food, and it'll be a big to-do, which is going to end at dark somewhere, I think, around 6. And I think I can tell this now, that the Sebring International Raceway has promised a giant fireworks show on Lake Jackson.
Okay.
They have to put it on a barge out in the lake because they were afraid that the burn ban would still be in effect. So if they do it out in the middle of the lake, Lake Jackson should have plenty of water. There should be.
I hope so.
Should be plenty of water in the lake in case anything happens, and then you'll have time to get ready and go to your New Year's Eve party, wherever that might be.
Too bad they're having a champ car race when I'm not going to be here, because I love that race. I like watching it.
I prefer
more fun.
Champ cars are they're fun.
Yeah.
I prefer lemons or Le Mans as they call it.
Yep.
And
that was good too.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun out there.
Yes,
so.
And whatnot. So and that the one time I stayed in the hotel was when I went out there the weekend they were running the chump cars, and I watched it from. And I had a trackside room and so on. It was really interesting, very and neat. You could go out, sit there in a chair and watch the race cars go by for a while, and then go back in, get yourself something to drink or eat or whatever, and come back out and watch it some more.
Yep.
And then wake up the next morning, it was still going on.
We were out there, and it was a daytime race, and it turned out to be on New Year's Eve day.
Yep.
And in fact, it was the first New Year's Eve day race since the first one in 1950. But it was getting late into the evening, and the cars were coming by like one at a time. And my wife loves 7. She loves the hairpin's the place to watch.
Yep.
So she looked at me and said, "This is getting boring. They're coming by one at a time." I said, "Honey, this is a jump car. Something's going to happen." About this time, here came this Miata sliding sideways, and his wheel was headed toward the billboard, directly west of where he was going.
Yeah.
And I said, "Here it comes." And so they bunched them all up, and they had a dash for cash, maybe 5-10 laps, and it was fun. It was a fun watching a race out there at the 7 Raceway Hotel is a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little pricey, okay,
yes,
but it was worth it. It was my birthday and Christmas present wrapped up together.
Well, I went out there with, like I say, the chump cars were running, so it wasn't quite as expensive that weekend and whatnot. But I did enjoy that whole situation. And I will tell, from Reinhardt's point, I will say that I had been out. My wife was still here, and so on. My wife and I and some other person. I think we went out there 2 or 3 times for the Easter buffet.
Oh yes,
which is like off the chart good. Okay. You have to have reservations, but it's off the chart good, and so on. So whether they're going to continue that kind of a program or not when he's not there anymore, I don't know. But I know that was always good.
Well, one thing that happened last week we haven't had a chance to comment on is the United States confiscation of that Venezuelan tanker.
Yes.
That was taken. I guess that they're looking maybe at Puerto Rico or New Orleans as the offloading parts.
Mm-hmm.
But
and Trump did say yesterday, I think it was, that he's planning on, they send another tanker out there. He says, we're going to take that one too. So they're ramping up. I think they're also putting sanctions on Maduro's ability to move money around at various international banks. So they're really putting the squeeze on Maduro. And I think in Trump's perspective, my opinion is that he's trying to get him to a point where he either is going to leave the country voluntarily, okay, where he's probably got billions of dollars stashed somewhere, and go to some friendly country that would protect him, like Russia, Iran, China, whatever, where he could live out his days with his millions of dollars, but get him out of power. And then hopefully, I don't want to be involved in it, but hopefully the people then could have a free and fair election without the threat of danger.
Well, part of the problem is Venezuela is not that far from us.
No.
Okay?
Not at all.
I think that Donald Trump also sees what Eisenhower saw with the domino effect of stopping the spread of communism. Mm-hmm. If they can put a democracy of some description, a republic of some description in Venezuela, other South American countries may ease up and allow the people to decide their representation and their government and stop, because Venezuela is full of Chinese and Russians and Islamists and so, but I think it's going to be a tough sell. Even let's say I had $1 billion, okay? I had $1 billion, but I couldn't live in the United States anymore. I'd have to go to another country and live. It would be tough for me to try to figure out a country that I would feel somewhat comfortable in. Would I want to go to England? Well, not particularly, no. Would I want to go to Australia? Well, they speak English, but no, not really. How about Ireland? Yeah, maybe Wales. I don't know. Some other English-speaking country. Even though I sure wouldn't want to go to, Russia or China, someplace where I have no clue on how to speak the language, or the culture.
Yeah, so some people, like, I know you've got a friend that went to South Seas country, Vietnam, right?
Thailand,
and so on. So there are some. Now, how safe and how good those countries are, I have no earthly idea. No. As far as wanting to live there, I mean, traveling there, visiting there, maybe get in, get out at some point, but to put stakes down in the ground and say, this is it, I'm not quite sure.
I knew a lady who took a cruise, and they went to this beach, and they were walking along the beach, and there was a guy standing there in a black suit, a white shirt, and a black tie. And he didn't really look like a beachgoer that much. And as they walked by him, he stopped. He says, ladies. And she says, yes. He says, I can't guarantee your safety beyond this point. And this lady said, well, I'm not worried about it. And she just kept walking. And she said she and her friend had walked down the beach a ways and turned around, came back, and nothing bad happened. But if I was walking along the beach and the guy said, I can't guarantee your safety, I'd say, okay. And I'd be doing the 180 and going back the other way where they could guarantee my safety.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's, and for all of its faults, and we have a lot of faults in this country for sure. To me, when you start listening to the stories and looking at what happens in these other countries, it's still the best place in the world.
Amen.
Still the best place in the world. In spite of all the bad guys we've got in this country, I still think it's depending on where you live in this country, because I think there are some places in this country that are very unsafe, And,
Oh,
and
yes.
some of them that are going to get worse unsafe, if you will. New York City, for one, all right, it's already, you can see the things that, and Madami takes over in another couple of weeks, but you can already see some of the programs that he has announced, like, releasing all the prisoners, allowing street side encampments, and some of the people he's put in positions. I think he just named, I think it was some kind of an outreach position in his, he named somebody who was convicted of a major felony crime. And people said, what the heck are you doing? Oh, no, he says, I need this kind of person to speak to those kind of people.
Well, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I think some of this stuff takes a while for it to flesh out. It takes a while for these kinds of things to come to fruition.
Yep.
We saw this with the Biden administration. When the Biden administration took over, okay, when they began to undo some of the stuff that Donald Trump had issued executive orders. They put in people who were, for lack of a better word, woke individuals to be in charge of the military, to be in charge of the transportation, to be in charge of this, that, and the other thing. And, it took the better part of 6 to 8 months for us to realize how bad it was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay. So I even though he's already started making these, he's like when Obama came in, he took over like right away. Before he was even inaugurated, he was doing stuff. And that's what this guy has done, this Mandani. And I think that it'll take a while. And I have not run into any lately, but I continue to ask these kids, hey, if you're a socialist, why aren't you on your way to New York? Because I saw this guy and said, if I had a dollar for every time socialism worked, I would have $0. He said, and by the way, if I had a dollar for every time socialism didn't work, I'd still have $0. Because it does not work. And the people who have the money to spend have been leaving in droves because they know what's coming.
Well, I think, that the so-called millionaire/billionaire class will be leaving. And I'd seen a story last week that said, no, that's not true. Well, I think it's obviously going to be true and so on. But then there's also been reports, I believe that they're probably mostly true, and that is that a large number of the police force has either retired, resigned, left their position, and so on. So for a city that has been bad on crime to begin with, now you take and eliminate a proportion of your police force. Let's pick a number. Let's say it's even only 20%. Well, their police force, I believe, is how many? 20,000? 20,000 policemen or something like that. Is when they're fully manned. I think that is supposed. They've already been roughly about 5,000 policemen short before Mandami even ran for office. So you take that on top of however many new people may leave or retire, and then you allow the homeless encampments to mushroom out of size, and you let prisoners out of jail. He said he's going to empty out Rikers Island, which holds roughly around 5,000 convicts. That's a formula for disaster.
Well, there's this old movie called Escape from New York, where the gangs have taken over New York and have kind of split it into what they would say in the olden days, balkanized it, like the Balkan countries. And each area of New York was run by a different gang. And I think that if it isn't like that now, it will dissolve into that. And New York is already for me, it would be a very dangerous place to be. I went 40 years ago, maybe more.
Yeah.
I went to New York, and it was scary then.
Yeah.
It was scary then, and I was with a bunch of guys, and we had a guy who lived in Long Island, and he took us around to the good places, but it was a filthy place. There was paper they didn't clean the streets. It was already a filthy place when we were there.
Yep.
And it hasn't gotten any better. So I think that it's going to probably serve as an object lesson. This is what happens. And we saw it in San Francisco when they had the same kind of thing. They literally, and I remember this is back when Les was still with us. They had an app for your phone to find out where the poop was on the streets because they were pooping on the streets, you know. And now we haven't heard from San Francisco for such a long time. I have no idea what's happening out there now.
Well, you've got that. I mean, like I said, it's what already has existed under, Eric Adams. He certainly, what he did in the beginning of the COVID thing is, brought in so many of the illegals, or of course, Governor Abbott down in Texas graciously sent him a bunch of illegals. Okay. But then he spent, I'm told, billions of dollars housing them, feeding them, educating them, taking care of their health care, and so on. So he put the city in worse financial shape. He may have made some inroads in crime reduction, but not a whole lot. The governor ended up having to put the National Guard in the subway for the last few years to try and control crime, and so on. So it's been a bad situation for a long time. And I think it's only going to get worse, considerably worse under this guy.
And the problem is not even so much how bad it's going to get, is ultimately when someone comes in and tries to get all the horses back in the barn again, it's going to, like, we're going to see kind of an object lesson on that here in the very near future, because one thing that's happening is Obamacare is finally coming unraveled. And
this week,
yeah,
matter of fact, I think it was today.
Is it today?
I think it was today. Was a deadline, I believe.
And what's going to happen is people are now going to be responsible for their own health care because the subsidies are going away. And what we told people more than a decade ago, okay, about Obamacare and how it did it exactly opposite what they promised. It was going to be better health care for less money. Okay. It was worse health care for more money. And they buoyed it up by giving government subsidies. So it seemed like it was less. You just paid for it in other ways. You paid for it in inflation. Excuse me. You paid for it in other ways, but you were paying for it. Now, and as we've talked about before, I used to have a doctor, Dr. Caruso, who did not accept any insurance, Medicare, Medicaid. You just paid for it, but his prices were a lot lower. And I think what you're going to see now is a couple of things. Number one is the prices will come down significantly, although for most people are still going to be high. And you're going to be required on the front end to take better care of yourself, to eat better, get more exercise. And we have been very, very blessed for the past, better than a decade since I've been married to Sandra. I've not really gone to any doctors. I really, really haven't gotten sick, but that's because I take more vitamins in the morning than most people have all day. And the idea is of eating better food, more organic food, less processed food, and getting out and getting exercise. To the whole apple a day, keep the doctor away. You're going to see what it's going to be like now trying to get all these horses back in the barn.
Well, I think the people that are upset in this country over the fact that Trump hasn't been able to solve all problems in the first 10, 11 months of his administration. The problems that Joe Biden and his regime left behind were massive. 4 years worth of horrible, horrible decisions and actions that they perpetrated on the American people.
By whoever was running this country.
That's right. And so you got Trump who comes in, and you would like to say, well, let's see, what do we need to do? Well, we need to rebuild the military. We certainly got to get the cost of living down. And then there's like 9,000 other items that need to be dealt with right away. So you've only got so many people that you can throw at these problems, okay? You've got so many people and so on. So it's those things are there. They're trying to fix everything they can. And I think they've made some dramatic input and we're seeing it. We talked about it earlier before the show started today. And that was that the cost of fuel in this country has come down dramatically. Dramatically.
Yes.
Our norm under the Biden administration was flirting with $4 a gallon. Maybe a little bit over at times, but certainly within the realm of $4 a gallon.
It never reached 4 here. It got to like 3.89, and I can remember going into one of the gas stations and paying for my gas. I said, "You guys are killing us, man." And he goes, "I know."
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I made a mistake. I posted on the interweb that one of the gas stations up here was at 2.37, and since that went up on the interweb, I couldn't get near the place. The lines were almost out to the streets, and I commiserated about that, and my wife says, "Well, you're the one that put it on the internet." I know. Yeah. Since then, by the way, it's gone up. They had their little price jump.
Well, not too bad though. Like I told you, when I just drove by an hour and a half ago, it was up the Murphy station the Murphy station. It was 2.43.
So it's coming back.
Okay.
It's a little game. They jump it and they bring it back down.
Yep.
And I'm not sure what that's all about.
I don't either.
I guess because they can.
I just want somebody to explain to me how and why is the price so dramatically different between Avon Park and 3 miles down the road in Sebring. It's dramatically higher.
And it's even higher in Lake Placid.
Well, that may be.
Yes.
I don't get to Lake Placid very often.
I have a friend of mine who says it's always at least a dime to 20 cents more expensive in Lake Placid. And I make the sardonic joke. I had a woman at one time that was the former president of the Gasoline Dealer and Convenience Store Operator Organization, and she told me, well, it's cheaper to other places because you're closer to the coast, and the tankers don't. I know the tankers don't have to come as far, and I started making, and so now she won't talk to me, and she's blocked me, and that's okay. It's all right. But at any rate, so I sometimes I make the joke that Avon Park's closer to the ports than Lake Placid. John, I don't know why.
Yeah. I just wish somebody that is in the know could explain that to me, because there's no rationale difference why gas could be upwards of 50 cents a gallon cheaper in Avon Park than it is 2 miles down or 3 miles down the road in Sebring. Nobody can explain that to me.
Well, I mean, you just went up into Polk County.
I went up into Polk County,
and
yes.
The prices are not any cheaper.
No.
And you would think with the amount of gas they pump, they always say, when they make it up on volume, that it would be less expensive up there in some of the higher populated places.
Well, the average price that I saw today at a lot of the stations, and I passed a lot of them going up there, was $2.67.
Mm-hmm.
That was the kind of the norm up there on 98 and so on. So that seemed to be the way it was. But I can remember when I pumped gas back in the day, okay? I mean, we used to give presents to people for buying, buy 10 gallons worth of gas.
Oh, yeah.
You get a set of plates and whatnot. And if you kept coming back every week and did that, eventually you had a setting for 8 or whatever. We used to give other kinds of goodies away. Plus, when I worked there, you used to clean their windshield and check their oil. Okay.
Well, at the Ohio station, there was always this big poster, and they would change it every week, and you would look up and see if your license tag was that the number was on there. And if your license tag was on there, you would come and show the attendant, and they'd give you some little pocket knife. They give you some little present,
right? Yep.
But the idea was that you would come in and get gas. And I remember when $1 worth of gas would get you 3 gallons,
right?
So now $1 worth of gas was not a big, 2.5 anyway.
And back then we didn't have these illustrious convenience stores. You went in, they had potato chips and a candy bar and a Coke.
Maybe a vending machine.
But they didn't have these illustrious sandwiches and vegetables and salad to go and, roast beef.
No, you walked in there, they had maybe some oil, transmission fluid, they carried the stuff for your car. Yeah. And there would be like a gumball machine and a candy bar machine and a soda machine. Maybe. Okay? In there. And that, I think, half of that was for the guys that worked there.
Right.
You know.
Well, I saw something yesterday that you just shake your head and you say, "Oh my God." This woman who stood out in front of a Buc-ee's, and we like Buc-ee's. I do. It's an experience to go to Buc-ee's, okay? But anyhow, she was standing there saying, "I love Buc-ee's, but it's a racist organization." Yes. And I sat there and I saw this and I shook my head trying to think.
Right. How is this?
I have no idea.
Is it a European beaver? I don't know. What's the deal?
I have no idea what she was referring to, but that was her comment. She said, "I love coming here, but it's racist." Okay, they run a racist organization. So you figure it out. I can't figure it out. Okay.
But I think, John, with the way that President Trump does not, he doubles down.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't back off things.
Right.
You know, and he doesn't mind. He already knows that the media doesn't like him, so he doesn't care. He just does what.
Yep.
I think we are recouping the idea you will live in America, you can have your own opinion. They can't cancel you the way they used to be able to cancel you.
Mm-hmm.
And people are now using technology to help themselves. There's this guy named Ian Carroll with 2 L's. And I don't agree with everything he says. Okay. But one thing that he has done is he would go on and do these spreadsheets and figure out who owns what companies, what's in the products they put. Most of it is something that we put in our mouth one way or the other, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's toothpaste or, something out of cereals, whatever. He's got a new app called Buyer, B-U-Y-R. And you can scan the code and it'll tell you who owns that company and show you the ingredients
Mm-hmm.
that are in it in case you have any questions. And I famously had I called at least 2 companies. One was a one was a corn chip company to find out where the corn chips were made, and then we found this butter company. And I tried to call them, but they weren't open only Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Pacific time, and I was on a Saturday, so I couldn't call them. But I think that we are now able to look at more things and know more things than we've known in the past. So I think that we are in the process now of reclaiming the country, and we have to now lead our friends and families overseas in Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, to begin to try to. There supposedly were some riots in Europe to try to drive the Muslims out, but I haven't seen anything from that. You know?
England, I saw a big video last night. I watched it from England, and the patriots in England, the countrymen, if you will, citizens of England,
Mm-hmm.
true citizens of England, are trying to take it back over. All right. They have major protest over there against the Muslim community, because the Muslim community is the one that's come in and literally destroyed England. Plus,
Yes.
Farmer, whatever his name is, the current Prime Minister of England, he is horrible, horrible. He has throttled free speech, jailed people for free speech issues, and at the same time sided with the Muslims over the English population. So he has been a terrible leader and has really created this problem to become even worse. But the people in England are finally, I think, fed up. Now, whether or not they can make any meaningful changes, but other parts of Europe, all right, have started to send the Muslims and not back, especially the ones that came from Africa. They're starting to send them back because they know, number one, they've destroyed the heritage of the country itself, the host country, if you will, and in the process, they, like all we've done over here, they've just thrown all their money at the immigrants that have come into the country to the behest of the population, their own citizens.
Well, this has happened once before, and it was, I believe, in the 1200s or 1300s when Spain retook Spain from the Mohammedans
Mm-hmm.
and drove them out in what they called the Reconquista movement. And however, under their philosophy, once once Islam has set foot on your soil, that's theirs. They consider it theirs.
Yep.
So even though they've been thrown out, they consider that theirs, and they're coming back. And as I've talked about in the past, this is what they call civilization jihad, where they go into countries and just outpopulate you.
That's what they do.
And the more they get, then the more they begin to take over whatever local governmental agencies they have. Here in Michigan, in the United States, Michigan is because in Dearborn, they sardonically refer to it as Dearbornistan, and they broadcast because they've taken over and gotten the votes and taken over the city council 5 times a day. They broadcast this call to prayer at ear-splitting levels.
Yep.
Okay, and they do things in your face, like for instance, I saw a dad who was leading his son across the street at the time that this goes off. And in the middle of traffic, this kid gets down and faces Mecca and begins to pray to Mecca and holds up traffic. This is an in-your-face kind of thing. Yep. And the dad is standing 5 or 6 steps behind the boy, so you can't get around. You can't like drive around to either side of him to get around him to do this, you know. And this is an in-your-face kind of thing. However, our dear friend Ted Nugent has found a way around this. And was this in Detroit where he did this?
Yeah, it was I think it was in Detroit. May have been a suburb, may have been Dearborn.
Maybe Hamtramck, yeah.
Well, Hamtramck's just as bad as Dearborn.
Yes, it is.
They're both, but I think it may have been in Dearborn. Yes, and so on.
He showed up with a flatbed trailer. And the folks who might know, Ted Nugent started with the Amboy Dukes and then started his own band. He was known as the Motor City Madman. And Ted plays pretty loud rock and roll. And Ted was, like many stars, ended up being a victim of his agent, who stole almost all the money he had. And Ted, millions of dollars went out the door that he wasn't paying attention to. He was too busy playing. And when it came down to it, he had no money. He was bankrupt. And he said, how can I be bankrupt of all this money I've been making at these? Well, your agent stole it all. And so he has continued to play rock and roll music. He was on a reality series for a while. He makes us kind of look like Teddy Kennedy. He's way out on the right there. He's way out there. But he came in with these loud rock and roll amps and just started playing probably his Intensity album, you know, rocking it out.
To compete against the call to prayer sound, if you will.
And I think that's what's going to take.
Yes.
Because if everyone has the right to freedom of speech, then everyone has the right to freedom of speech.
Yep.
You know, and if freedom of speech means that you can pull out in the middle of traffic and play giant speakers, well, okay, let's do it then.
You know, I haven't seen, speaking of protesters and those that stand out in the middle of the street, ever since the governor enacted the law that said that if you're held up in traffic by protesters, you have a right to drive over them. I haven't seen that happen in this state. It seems like that law has kind of curtailed any thoughts that people are having about trying to block traffic in the middle of the road. Because with the thought that, just like them guys that got arrested in Polk County for, shoplifting.
Yes.
What? You arrest me?
Oh.
How could that happen? Well, you're going to run me over? Yes, I am. Okay. I have a right to do that.
Let me tell you, that thing that happened in Polk County, for the folks who don't know, they had some kind of football tournament up there. And it made me think of the TDC here and the sports tournaments they want to have. But they had a football tournament, and one of these teams came down out of Philadelphia.
Yep.
And there was like 8 kids, and they go into a sporting goods store, and they start stealing all this stuff. And they go out the door, and these guys stop him, and the Polk County Sheriff's Office shows up, and apparently Grady Judd has a much different philosophy of shoplifting than they have in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And he arrested him.
Yep. And
the coach came in and said, "Let him go."
Yeah.
And Grady said, "I'm thinking no on that."
Right.
And so and they went to the sporting goods store and tried to get. Sporting Goods says, we're thinking no on that.
Right.
And not only are they up now for this, what they take, like $900 worth of stuff?
$2,000.
$2,000?
$2,000.
$2,000 worth of stuff. And they couldn't play in they lost this championship for their team.
Yep.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And but they're going to blame Grady Judd for prosecuting them for shoplifting. And I think that's the kind of philosophy that we need, is to tell people, look, you obey the law, be honest, be upright. Okay? You can make money without stealing it.
Yep.
You know, you can do that.
These kids got a hard lesson. Okay, rightfully so, and rightfully deserved. All right, they got a hard lesson because he literally locked them up.
Oh yeah,
he locked them up. Okay, and you're right. The coach came along and cried boo-hoo. Grady Judd said, "Sorry, this is not Philadelphia." And then you're right. He went to the store saying, "Boo-hoo, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't work here." Okay,
and to your point here, we're sitting here on Main Street in Avon Park, and there's a big mall right in the middle of us. And if you want to put 1,000 people in there, I don't know if you can put 1,000 in there or not. Let's say you want to put 500 people in there and protest. You can do that all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But when you stop in and try to stop traffic, that's something else.
Yep.
We used to have flag waves for the American Party, and we would be on a sidewalk. Mm-hmm. And the ruling was, as long as the people had the right to pass and repass behind us,
mm-hmm.
we could, and we had a couple of guys fly by on bicycles,
right?
But that's okay. Mm-hmm. We gave people plenty of time, plenty of room to go by us, but you can't block traffic,
right?
And I think that people were getting jerked out of the road, were getting thrown to the side, or were getting arrested, and they found out, you know what, we're not gonna, and there weren't people to bail them out anymore.
No.
That was the thing.
No. I think it has really, I believe, from what I haven't seen any stories, so a non-story is a non-story, but I have not seen anybody try to push that to the extent where somebody says, I've got the protection. The governor said I can run you over and I'm going to do it. Okay. And so I think just the idea that nobody wants to get run over by, a big four-wheeler. So no. I don't think I'll try that. Okay.
No. And people they were starting to get hit by this thing, and
yes.
And they weren't, if you're in the middle of the road, as I used to say, one of my father's last words to me as I would leave the house to go play, stay out of the street.
Yep.
Which I did.
I just wanted to quickly run over something,
Sure.
And it's not, but this is Illinois. And we all know Illinois has been in the news a lot the last 6-8 months, mainly because of illegal immigration and the fact that ICE and the rest of them have been in Chicago trying to help clean it up because the government there doesn't have the willpower to do it. So I just ran across, I said, okay, well, what's the leaders doing in Illinois? The Illinois legislatures, okay, and they have, I don't know the number, but their average salary is $110,000 to $170,000 a year. They only work 70 days a year. 70 days a year.
That's more than a congressman.
Yes, and they make 110 to 100, and they get free health care and a lifetime pension on top of it for 70 days a year.
Wow.
In the city of Chicago, they have 50 city council members. 50, okay?
50 city council members?
50 city council members in Chicago, yes. Their average salary, and it's only a part-time gig, okay? The average salary is $29,924 a year, okay? And there's 50 of them. So if you do that roughly, that is like over $1 million a year just for the salary for those 50 city council members, all right? And so, there's the top earners, 90 percentile of the top earners get $36,000. The majority range in the middle gets 29 to 33, and the entry level for a city council member is 29.7.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
But just think of the money, and that state is in horrible financial shape.
I wonder why.
This is on top of everything else that they've done out there. J.D. Pritzker and the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, it's just a horrible, horrible situation.
It's incredible.
And I think it looks like Brandon Johnson is not going to win re-election because even the minority population of Chicago is fed up to hear with what he's done, and so on. And Pritzker, who fancies himself as the next president of the United States, he needs to go to a weight reduction program for about 4 years.
I'm not seeing that happen.
No.
But I'll tell you, as we head into the new year, please get ready for the midterms. Be thinking about this. Be doing your research, whether it's city council, county commission, school board, state reps, whether it's Congress people or whatever. Be ready, because we have to get Donald Trump some help in his last 2 years. Please, please.
Amen. You got to keep the House and retain the Senate majority, but you got to keep the House, because otherwise impeachment is going to be the first hour of the first day of the new Congress.
Yeah, for the rest of the Congress.
Yes.
So we appreciate you being tuned in to the latest edition of the Barry Foster Show, recorded at the Ridge Florist Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. Remember, if you want some beautiful floral arrangements for the holiday season, Ridge Florist is the place to go. It's ridgefloristofsebring.com, or you can give them a call, 863-382-4477, or you can stop on by and see them, 111 Memorial Drive here in the in beautiful Sebring. We're in the Avon Park Studios. So please stop by and see them. Get some flowers. Tell Nell I said hi. And remember, if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for the program, all you have to do is put them in the comments below, or drop us a line at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com, and check out our YouTube page at The Barry Foster Show Daily. We're putting up new programming on a regular basis. Like, subscribe, and share our YouTube page. And come on, join our pages at The Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram. That would be very helpful. As we continue to look for truth, justice, and the American way, Barry Foster and John Larsen, and we'll see you next time.